From Sigma Woman, this is the Business for Aligned Women podcast. I'm your host, Clara, your aligned business coach and advocate for all things showing up for your vision. This is a no BS space for brave-hearted women who are actually craving change. I'm dedicated to bringing women's visions into reality, equipping women with all they need to build an abundant future, and shutting down all of the ways that you keep yourself small. Here, we're all about a women-centered approach, non-negotiable value alignment, and making bank without compromising your well-being. Each week, you're already one step closer to your most aligned and abundant future. Today's episode is a little loving reminder to ensure that you're pausing and taking time to acknowledge your progress and actually congratulate yourself on how far you have come. Before we get into that, I want to give you a really quick little reminder. If you're having any struggles in business, you want a little bit of a better idea as to what's going on strategically, you can always take my free sales block quiz. It takes about 2 minutes. You can get some support and some action points straight away. Let's talk about never acknowledging your progress. I think we all do this in business and in personal. I know for myself, probably I do this more in my personal life, my personal goals that I have. But I do see it a lot in my clients that they're so focused on the next thing and moving forward that they never stop and realize, oh my goodness, I've completely transformed everything. And I see this a lot in my Gentle Business program because it's a 6-month program, especially working with a coach. The amount that someone can develop and progress over 6 months is significant. But because it's a long period of time, it's a slow enough burn that they don't have the realization of how much they have changed and progressed. And I'm not sure if you've ever noticed that there's a really serious correlation and connection between never celebrating your successes or acknowledging your progress and burnout. Because as you can imagine, if you're just constantly on a conveyor belt to move forward, next thing on having these kind of like changing goalposts, for instance, maybe you want to hit 1,000 followers on TikTok and you're not there yet, but you have also created and ideated and launched a whole podcast and set up sales funnels and you're showing up consistently you never have before. You might still be focusing on the fact that you haven't yet hit 1,000 followers on TikTok. And while that is healthy because we do want you to have something to move towards, humans do need that. That's part of our psychology. It's also really unhealthy to be only focusing on the negative things. And of course, we all have a negative bias, so we all do this. And it's one of the things that I struggle with the most in my life, honestly, is letting the negative things suck all of the energy out of all of the great. I think you probably relate to that as well. But to sit down and go, wow, I've actually released a podcast and I've actually set up all my sales funnels and I've done all of this stuff, even though it might not be this one little lacking thing that's annoying me. Or honestly, maybe you haven't done any of that, but the way that you think about your business has changed. Or maybe you're less emotional in your business, or maybe you've developed a bit of consistency, or maybe you've just realized that you need consistency, whereas a year ago, you were happy to keep faffing about. These changes and this progress doesn't need to be massive. It doesn't need to be something that someone could observe externally. It could simply be a change in mindset or a change in perspective. And that is enough. And that is worth acknowledging and it's worth celebrating. So I don't know how you do this. And I know for me, it's often buying myself presents. And I don't know how supportive that is really long term. Maybe it's taking yourself out for a nice meal or a nice date, or I don't know what it is for you, but there's something, maybe it's lighting a candle, or making a really yummy coffee and sitting in the sun and drinking it and thinking and processing about all of the things that you have achieved. I want to talk about a couple of things that might sabotage your ability to pause and congratulate yourself and avoid that burnout that happens when you're just on that constant conveyor belt to move forward. A really big one is unrealistic goals. Often people come to me and they haven't really made any money in their business over the last 6 months, but they want me, the magic fairy, to make their business earn $20,000 months. And it is unrealistic. It is. It's possible. but it's unrealistic to go from zero to that level in a few months. And although I don't love using weight loss, and I can't really think of another way to describe this, but let's just like deal with me talking about weight loss for a second. If you wanted to lose 20 kilograms and you just focused on 20 kilograms all the time, and every day you went on the scale and you'd only lost a few grams, of course you're going to feel like that goal is so far away and so hard and so impossible. Whereas if you focused on losing 1 kilogram and then the next kilogram and then the next, eventually that adds up and will hit 20. Let's use another analogy just because I hate the weight loss stuff. You want to start swimming laps. You swim one lap and you're completely pooped. I know I would be pooped after one lap of freestyle. And then you slowly start to build up to swimming 2 laps, and you just swim 2 laps for a month. Then all of a sudden, maybe you can swim 4. But if you got in the pool that first day and tried to swim 4, you probably would have struggled and you would be much more likely A, to give up, and B, to beat yourself about it. I'm actually going through this exactly with running right now. And something that I have a really serious personal problem with is biting off way more than I can chew, especially in my fitness journey, and then injuring myself and needing to take time off and then kind of starting from scratch again. So, something that I'm working with getting back into jogging again is literally 10 minutes a day. And my ego does not like it. 10 minutes a day, twice a week for this month. Next month, 15 minutes, 3 days. My ego hates it. Even my partner is like, you're not doing enough. And I'm like, I am definitely doing enough. I'm definitely doing enough for where I'm at right now. And if I push myself further too soon or expect too much, or I have a too high or unrealistic goal with this, I'm going to injure myself and I'm going to fall off the wagon. I'm not going to be able to maintain consistency. And I think a lot of people do that in their business. And then it's really hard to make progress. And then, of course, it's really, really hard to acknowledge progress. So if you're listening to this, you're like, oh, wow, I can't remember the last time I celebrated my progress, let alone acknowledging it. I think it would be really lovely for you to do a little bit of a review on how realistic your goals are and how realistic your time frame is to hit them. And this also could be a really nice resource for you at the end of the year if you're someone who likes to make New Year goals. I talk about this a lot and I've got it here on my little dot point notes. I'm not sure if it's worth bringing in, but I just want to remind you that the more time you spend conceptualizing something, and I've developed statistics around this, the harder it's going to be for you to move into a place of action. I also see that the more time you spend complaining about how something is, the harder it will be for you to move into taking action. It's kind of like you've given it too much energy, kind of made it this big, muddy, big, messy thing. When if you had just moved into action, you might have bypassed a lot of that messiness. And the more time you can spend taking action and ticking things off, the more confidence you will develop. I talk about that all the time, so I'm not going to go into it any further. But part of being able to acknowledge your progress is being present in the now. And I know a lot of you value that, but most of you aren't actually doing that in your daily life. Not looking at social media, what other people are doing, or how far other people have progressed, or comparing yourself, but being happy with where you're at right now and accepting it and actually enjoying this phase of the journey. Something that is coming through to talk about around that is right now, my business is making so much money that it's stressing me out because I am not personally used to, or I grew up with really no access to money or financial support. So I could be pushing and going more, 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 next big thing, make a new big product, do a big launch. And a lot of more hustle culture people would do that. I know myself well enough and I'm present enough in my current reality that I see that my nervous system actually couldn't hold much more money than this and it would actually fry me. So I'm acknowledging where I'm at. I'm enjoying it. I'm making sure things are sustainable and functioning, but I'm not going to push for more right now. I'm going to be present with what's happening right now and acknowledge my limitations. Another thing that will help you with acknowledging your progress is having some form of tracking or even journaling. I know I love to do my evening Seneca review from Stoicism, which is just what did I do well today? What could I do better? And then I've kind of added on to that with what am I grateful for? What am I proud of? And what do I need? I think that little needs part is something that people really skip over a lot when they're talking about progress and goals. Like, okay, I could do this thing better. I want to do it better. I want to grow in this area. What support do I need in order to help me to get there? And what do I need, whether it's from me or someone else or contextual, in order to be more able to access that next level? And if you've not asked yourself, what support do I need in a really long time? This is your reminder to do that. If you're feeling like I don't have any structures or planning in my business, so I actually have no idea if I have progressed or not, which is also, one of the reasons why you should have accounting software and you should have project management software and you should have a yearly plan so that you can actually see how you have progressed. I would invite you to take a once off planning session with me. I'm doing them just until 30th of January, and there's really limited numbers available. And it's where we'll sit down together and we'll look at your whole next 12 months and we'll plan everything that you're doing in your business and all of your launches so that at the end of next year, you can come to this point in the year and feel really accomplished. And one other thing about those planning sessions and how I map a 12-month plan is you will probably want to do way more in that year than I think is feasible for anyone. And a big part of those planning sessions is me actually culling things down and removing things so that you have a really realistic and relatively gentle approach to the year so that you can really start hitting those goals and making that progress and building up that confidence. If you can't tell, getting to share this time with you is something that I find truly sacred. I know that you're busy, but if you've taken anything away from our time spent together today, could you extend the love and share this episode with a friend, your community, or on your socials? Tag me so that I can see it and I can share it too. Or when you have a spare moment, leave the podcast for a review. These things cost you nothing and will mean so much to me. Let's get this resource into the hands of more women visionaries and help us collectively move towards our most aligned way of being and doing business together.